Shabbat Shalom and good morning, Temple Beth-El. I hope that as we embark on our winter vacation for so many of us, that we have some time to learn Torah this morning. We are in the Torah portion of Vayeshev, and he dwelt. And we are talking about now Jacob, who we've talked about for the last two Torah portions, who kept falling asleep. One time he had a dream about a ladder ascending from earth with angels going upward. And the second time, last week, we heard about Jacob's dream where he fought with Ish and his name was changed to Israel. So now we fast forward and Jacob is dwelling in a land with his 12 sons, the youngest of which is his son Joseph, who at this Torah portion is 17 years old. Now, Joseph is favored by his father, and we can talk about why, and we can talk about how that's not fair, and we can talk about how probably Joseph's brothers needed therapy for a long time after this. But the fact is this was a very public thing that Joseph was Jacob's favorite son. And because of this distinction, Jacob made Joseph a coat of many colors. Now, if you want to stop now and go rent the video, Joseph and his amazing Technicolor dream coat, you could get most of the Torah portion in that one video. So spoiler alert, I am going to tell you what happens next. Within this Torah portion, we begin by hearing of the rivalry between the brothers. And in fact, Joseph's older brothers decide that they are going to sell their younger brother, their youngest brother, into slavery. And so they trick him and they go out and they do. They throw him into a ditch and they leave him. And they imagine he's been sold into slavery or that they don't really care. Frankly, they were okay if they never heard from Joseph again. Now, this idea, I can't imagine is one that any older sibling has never felt. And yet I wonder as a younger sibling that maybe I had the one brother in the world who didn't want to sell me into slavery. Alas, I know that probably wasn't the case. Sibling rivalry is so unbelievably normal. In fact, it is the one way I believe that many of our kids grow up to be adults who know how to have not only healthy discussions and disagreements, but healthy ways to come back together again, to reconcile. Sibling relationships, I think, are one of the most intimate relationships that many of us can have because of that. There is this partnership, this undeniable bond between siblings, whether it is full of positivity, it cannot always be. But it is the person that we probably will spend the most number of years within our immediate family growing up next to. One thing I was thinking about is just how different sometimes parents are with siblings. We've heard about favoritism a few Torah portions ago with the brothers, but here we're talking about favoritism in a different sense. We read about the father's favoritism of his son as opposed to the mother. Favoritism is something that even as a parent, we say most of us never experience. It does happen. There are more siblings. We have children, that some are more like us or some are more like our partner or anywhere in between. But what that causes, that rift, often will cause such a deep chasm in this person, in a child who then later becomes adult, thinking, why was I the one either favored or not favored? As adults and as parents, I think it is our job to make sure we find what's incredible about all of our children, whether they're our children or our siblings or our nieces and nephews. Everybody, as we're taught, is B'Tselem Elohim, is created in God's image. In fact, that beautiful saying within Eastern culture, namaste, which is acknowledging that I see the God in you and you see the God in me, is this idea that I think is very much a Jewish thought in a way in which we can bring that into our culture and into our custom by saying, how do I seek out in each individual I come up against this notion of godliness within them? Lately, I've been hearing a whole lot about people saying this guy is evil or that person, there's nothing good about them. And we've been getting into the discussion of nature and nurture, not just within our synagogue, not just within our Torah portion, but frankly on the news and in the world right now. In Judaism, we're taught nobody is innately evil. We're taught everybody is created in God's image, but that within us dwell two opposing forces, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. One is the inclination to do well, Yetzer HaTov, and the Yetzer Hara is the inclination to do, the opposite. And that there is constantly a battle dwelling within each one of us. Similar to yin and yang, another Eastern understanding of how we can look at our drives, at our calls on the inside. This idea of Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov come back to us by saying, in Judaism, both exist. We know both exist in every human being. But then we can decide which one do we nurture? Which one do we give the most attention to? Which one do we bring out in times of anxiety and in times of joy? And so this Shabbat, I hope that as we read about this sibling rivalry, we recognize within ourselves even a rivalry of two sides, one to do what's right and one to not always do what's right. May we be guided and shown a light upon that which is the right decision, because they're not always obvious, so that we more often than not can choose to act from our Yetzer HaTov and live a life in the way in which God intended. Shabbat Shalom.